We are live again.
Oh,
Director Demare, are you hearing us? All right, I will call our regular board meeting back to order. And we are on item 9.5. Request for a decision, Lillooet Landfill and Recycling Center Operations, Maintenance and Management Services Purchasing Policy. And we have Director Omar Butt here with us.
Thank you. So this report is just to align the work we're doing with the wording in our purchasing policy, which in Schedule B, the procurement methods and procedures, it says the request for proposals will be issued in the same manner as an invitation to tender and will follow the procedures set out in Section 5.5 and Section 5.5.3 for acquisitions estimated to be over $500,000 on approval of the board by way of board resolution authorizing the tender call. So as we prepare to go out for RFP for the Lillooet landfill operations again, we need board approval to do that process, which is, yeah.
Thank you, and good, I see Director Demare is back online. Welcome back, Sal. All right. Mayor Huckle?
I will just make the motion. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's gonna be an expensive proposal, I believe.
And this is because we're looking at doing not 1 year term, like we're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And Director Stoner is seconding that. Yes, please do.
Thanks for bringing us forward and in line with our procurement process. Appreciate it'll be a short turnaround time. The project timeline that's laid out here really doesn't give us a huge amount of wiggle room. But just wanted to flag in my comments, the SLRD has joined the BC Social Procurement Initiative and has incorporated some social values into our procurement process. So just hope that those continue to be elevated where possible. But other than that, happy to support the motion as is. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands, is everyone in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Butt. We are on 10.1, the chair's verbal report. Nothing. Board roundtable, SLRD area updates. And we'll start with, we'll obviously try and keep these fairly brief, please. Squamish. Would that be Mayor Herford? Okay.
Yes, thank you. One second for my. Okay, I think the biggest piece was that just on Tuesday, it was announced that District of Squamish received $7 million from CMHC, the Housing Accelerator Fund, which is amazing. And we know that the fund I think had twice the applications that was available or something like that. Very competitive process. So I'm happy to see that. I'm proud of the work of the team in Squamish, and that team being, of course, my council colleagues, as well as our staff who are well positioned to actually be able to benefit from this funding. So, and essentially what happens next, as with all of these things, we're successful in getting the funding. Now we have to go, do the work. So this will fund an internal team dedicated to increasing housing supply and reducing barriers to build a variety of housing types in Squamish, in line with the district's housing action plan. So the action plan outlines several initiatives that aim to facilitate housing development over decades to meet the diverse needs of the growing community in Squamish. And really this is targeted on affordable housing, and missing middle housing. So, to really positively impact the, housing landscape in Squamish, sort of in perpetuity. So really exciting about that, and you'll hear lots more about housing, actions in Squamish, going forward. I also think, we also had, recently announced the sale of the forestry building, which is a building, was owned by the municipality, quite in close proximity to Brennan Park. It was sold to, Vancouver Coastal Health. So, I'm looking forward to hearing, in detail what their plans are, with that building, going forward. Yeah, so I'm sure that'll come out at whatever time it's appropriate for VCH to communicate, that. Also, and I'm quite excited about that, just any and all investment in our healthcare in our region is greatly appreciated. So I'm quite excited about that piece. Fortis WLNG projects continue to, I'd say, have impact on our capacity, both from staff perspective and time at the council table. Most recent piece there is the noise exemption permit was applied for and granted to the project. Noise exemption permits are all quite technical in nature and run, or delegated responsibilities to run through staff. And I think an important piece is, I don't really like the title that it's a noise exemption permit. It's not that they're exempt from all noise. Anyone that receives one is exempt from all noise regulation. It's that it allows anyone that is successful in receiving one to operate outside of the area of the times normally allotted to that. So there are a lot of measures in place that were deemed appropriate to mitigate the impact to the community. But essentially, this particular one is around the tunneling operations, which for technical reasons need to operate 24 hours a day, and they generate action. Most of that is, underground where the tunneling is happening, but that feeds back up onto the surface. There's certain things that do need to happen 24 hours a day there. So the issuing of that permit happened quite recently, earlier this week, I believe. And just as one example of the pieces that we're grappling with in the community, we'll need to adjust to, or possible impacts there. But as well as just an overwhelming amount of outstanding permitting and earlier today we were speaking with the energy regulator around, and the questions, you heard some of the questions from the Squamish directors around timelines and all these pieces. And it continues to be a challenge for us, where some of the comment periods have been as short as 14 days. And we know when we have a full work plan of a full organization, even 30 days isn't long enough. So, and those challenges come, I think it's important to understand, those challenges are baked into processes by our federal and provincial governments. And it's easy to put a proponent to point proponents with things like this, but these are regulations that our other levels of government have deemed appropriate for local governments to deal with, such as whether it's municipalities or regional districts. And I think it's fairly clear that that's not appropriate, but that's this category of topics is taking a tremendous amount of time from our organization currently. I'll leave it. I could go on for how many hours we have left. I'll give myself the hook at that point. So bit of a mixed bag of things in Squamish. Thank you.
Thank you, Armin. Mayor Mike?
A couple quick highlights to keep it tight. We came through, you can see that our daycare center is almost complete, which is very cool. We don't have an opening date yet. working towards the staffing issue, as we know, is not an easy one. In the industry around our quarter, but
Yeah.
even harder than that. Perhaps because of the wage levels, which is something we've talked about in early education and care. But I'm really excited to see that coming up. We're into our budget process now. We're a little bit behind. We work sort of at the same pace here at the SLRD as opposed to your schedules. So yeah, we're deep into that. That's going to take a big focus. And this week we moved ahead with the development permit on our affordable housing project just off of Harrow Road. So yeah, that came forward as the DP process portion of the project, and we moved it along, which is pretty awesome. It's very much needed, and it's in partnership with Sea to Sky Community Services, so it's going to house all their services. You see how they're split apart here, and they don't really have ability to provide the service that they want to. So that's going to be really great on many levels. Obviously, still lots of work ahead, but that was a big next step. And some other interesting and exciting housing items that hopefully I'll get to report on in the coming months.
Thank you. Director Rainbow. Area D.
Area D, thank you. We recently passed that third reading, or gave third reading to Tiger Bay. And I think probably the next day or within the week, a fence went up at their site with some walls and signage and things like that. And I was getting calls, and they started building that surf park. But just when you're going past there, just to set your mind at ease, no, they haven't. I mean, it hasn't been adopted yet, so they can't. But what apparently they have done is negotiated an 18-month contract with a filming company who are building a little village in there. It's a long-term project. I don't think it's a movie. I think it's a series. And they tell me that they figure it's going to take 18 months before they can start building the surf park in terms of getting all the financing in place and getting their permitting done. So anyway, that's what's happening at that site at this time. That's the first thing. I just wanted to pick up on something that Armin was talking about with Squamish, and that's the question of noise and wood fibre. I've already had a complaint from somebody at Britannia, which has been relayed to Squamish, about noise that was coming across the water from that site. Whether they were doing anything that was out of order or not, I don't know, but it's being looked into. But I think I would like Squamish to sort of recognise, and like the staff to sort of be aware that there could be some decisions made about what can happen at that site that will have an impact on Britannia. And so somehow if we can be engaged in that process before approvals are given, whatever, I'm not sure what it's going to look like going forward. But I'd like it to be done in such a way that I'm not getting constant complaints about something that's happening across the water. So there you go. The third thing, which is also in that Britannia area, really exciting to see what's going on with the village, the commercial project. Basically, the construction and everything that had to be done to reinforce the buildings and all that kind of stuff, that's all done. They're busy, really rapidly drywalling. I got a look around some of the apartments the other day, and now that their framing had been done before, but it was difficult to sort of, when you're in a place where there's no drywall, it's difficult to understand exactly what it looks like. But now the drywall is done, and it's great. Some of those places, they're not huge, they're small, but they're really nice. And so I think that they're on track to have businesses open and running this spring or early summer, something like that. So that's that. Oh, and I haven't talked to Heather about this, but I did talk to Nikki when she was around. The possibility of having a board meeting down there maybe later in the year, July or September, something like that. And if we do that, then that would include a full tour of the place and get a good idea of what's happening. And it'd be, some of you have been around it in the early stages. It's kind of neat to see where it's at now. And my last thing is I have a new alternate EAD people know this, but the board don't. Leslie DeBee, who lived in the Upper Squamish, she had to move to Nelson, and so had to resign from doing that job for us. And so I've got a replacement from the same area, from the Upper Squamish Valley. Her name is Paula DeJong, and she came to the EAD meeting with me to be sworn in and to meet the EAD directors. And she will be here in March, because I will be away, and she'll be here, be at the EAD. Whether she'll actually come in person or Zoom in, I'm not sure, but so you can expect to actually meet her then. And I just comment that this is my third alternate, my third female alternate, which is evidence of my commitment to encouraging women to get into politics. And I say that was a joke, it was quite serious. So there you go. Thank you.
And it was a pleasure to meet your alternate, and we'll offer her every
I'm sure you will.
assistance that we can.
Yeah.
Just area B, the landfill situation is just, the amount of misinformation is just staggering. It's just, so we have our hands full there. The hub are, now, people didn't see it when they came up for the tour. I don't think that time allowed, and I wish we had, but maybe in the future. We're hoping that Lillooet Agriculture and Food will be using part of that space. And we already have that happening, but there's potential to do better with that, so that's exciting. In the last month, we had the second public hearing. Now, when I came onto the board, the Area B bylaws were being updated. And, you know, like 2 staff went off on maternity leave and came back, and, you know, years go by and you guys keep hearing little versions and bits and pieces of the area view. I think we're pretty close to done, but I have to say it was like the longest, weird, strange journey and just unbelievably convoluted. And I must say, I wanted to have the OCP for Area B updated. That's way overdue, but I sure would like to have a little more of a straightforward process than that. But I think we made it. And that's it. Over to you, Mayor Hoffman.
So we have Martin Taylor from Prince George joined us January 2nd. He's our interim CAO. Has lots of years of experience and will be with us till about May. Hopefully we'll have a new CAO in place by then. Fire Chief Darren Oiki has pushed back his retirement date until February 10th. Not long, but you know, the job of the fire chief and emergency management training is so challenging to fill, especially in small communities like Lillooet. And I would really love to see a more shared community to community or regional or even provincial service that has flexibility to move and pivot, but with continuity. You know, like I think having a team that is layered in skills within the region, putting a greater emphasis on preparing for and mitigating the impacts of climate related emergencies before they happen and after they happen. So we had that in place. Instead of each of us having our own emergency management team, you know, if we could somehow layer that within the community, I just think that would be a more economical and again, with continuity between all of us. But anyways, we're in the midst of choosing a new home for the visitor center. It'll either be the museum and run by the Historical Society, as was prior, or remain at the Miyazaki House for the coming years. It's the Battle of the Visitor Center destination is scheduled. It's scheduled for tomorrow, so wish me luck. We are just starting the budget process, so we're a little bit behind, and I'm not going to discuss the landfill. That's it for me. Thanks.
Well done. Director Demare,
That's right.
Area A, please.
Thank you, Chair Bert Jones. Yeah, it was very disappointing that our number one event of the year, the Winterfest, will not happen this year. Feelers are out already for 2025, and hopefully we'll get some key people back to initiate it again and get it happening. On the recovery front, two items that I've been working on a little bit have been the White Bark Pine Recovery Project, which I mentioned earlier is started. It will be, looks like it will be spearheaded by the Fish and Wildlife Ministry for our area. And the other one is the Taylor Creek Bridge. If you remember my presentation, the Gun Creek Trail and the Jewel Bridge were both affected by the wildfires. And I've learned now that the two bridges on Gun Creek farther past that were just out of the fire, they were scheduled to get rebuilt this year. So, and they're going to get rebuilt. So it's going to be a while before that Gun Creek Trail is open. So I'm really pushing now on the Taylor Creek Bridge. And I've communicated with the BRVCA Trail Committee, and we've come up with a somewhat of a plan that will make it happen where we don't have to take on the whole trail. We'll just take a portion of it on as a section 57, 56. That's because we don't have the heritage field reconnaissance done yet. And we can do that lower part in May when the snow goes on that lower part where the bridge needs to go. So we've got our work cut out, I think, for both those projects, but hopefully they'll happen and move forward for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I see item 11.1, Lower Mainland Local Government Association call for resolutions, and I see the deadline February 28th, which is same day of our next board meeting. We have contributions from board members on that, or just note that date.
I don't have any proposed resolutions to come forward. I do think that when we get to BCM, we should continue our regional transit advocacy if we haven't seen progress before then, but I don't recall any specific resolutions from this board that would be directed to LMLGA at this point, like Lower Mainland LGA.
Thank you.
Yes, right. Yes, Armin.
Thank you on the branding there, but I think the regional transit piece deserves support, but I agree with Director Stoner that that's likely minister meetings and like that, because it is very specific to us. And I know that likely the individual municipalities are contemplating their own resolutions, and I can think of some I know that coming out of this Tuesday's meeting in Squamish, there's some work to be directed around feedback on various processes, like we talked about BCER, the EA process and so on, that may result in some resolutions to be brought forward, and perhaps at the next meeting could be considered if we wanted to layer on to some of that work if thought it was appropriate. So it can come jointly from SLRD if that's something that is of interest to the board, but the work will happen between now and the next EMD.
Sure, Director Richmond.
Yeah, just to feed off of that, we have a few coming from, is that just in my head? We have a few coming from the village that might be of interest to the regional district, a couple that won't be, but one that we've brought forward is about support for municipalities. I think it could affect regional districts in terms of fee waivers when it comes to housing, affordable housing projects, and maybe some funding support from the province. But that might be a little more municipal. But the other one is that, and I think it's a pretty broad one. I think it's more of a broad statement than anything, so I'll see where it goes, but we'll bring forward one that sounds like, you know, with all the housing initiatives and legislation that's come down, that's great. But the lack of funding and support for other services, especially, we've done two, one to really identify transit as one of them, so I bring it up. You know, I can share it with you guys, but it's, yeah, basically saying, you know, that's great that we're doing all this work on housing, but the lack of funding and support for transit and other services still makes it really difficult for us to move ahead with some of those projects. I can share that with the group and see if we want to support or co-op.
Chris was next. And then Dennis.
Yeah, two thoughts. One, if there's anything that staff are aware of, you know, I'd be interested to hear of if there's things we should be advocating for that we're missing, you know, next Tuesday or months from now. But the other one came up yesterday for me during the Food Policy Council discussion, and again related to a lot of the housing changes. So one of the farms they were talking about, community farms, came out of CACs, which that opportunity is no longer available in the new regulations. And maybe that's more of a municipal one than a regional district one, but this sort of avenue, which I think is important to make our communities livable with all this new density, we're losing those tools. And so there's maybe something in there about how we achieve that same sort of thing somehow.
Yes. Okay. Oh, sorry, yes, Jen.
Yeah, and I think that this bleeds into 11.3, which is a similar call for resolutions from SILGA. I do think that there's maybe some lessons learned and some advocacy pieces, obviously, coming out of our experience this year with our wildfire season and recovery. My general gut is that that's better to go through SILGA and one of the northern area directors, so I don't want to step on toes, but I think that for me is probably one of the biggest pieces. I don't have a specific direction at this point. We still have a month longer, a month, or maybe some, as Director Petty mentioned, some feedback from staff in advance of the February meeting on some proposed language for resolutions with regards to some of the lessons that we've learned through the fire season, where we might want to drive some provincial advocacy, but that's the main one for me that jumps out and is not, I think, is better suited through SILGA.
Oh, yes, good, Director Demare.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah. I'm waiting for I'll be going to the LGLA next week and attending the Electoral Area Directors Forum. And coming out of that, we'll see what resolutions are required. Also at UBCM, 2 of my resolutions last year were approved. So I'm waiting for the feedback on those. One was for the mining one that I had, and the other one was with Maudie. So I'm going to be very interested to see when we get to UBCM, because by then they'll have had replied to UBCM on those 2 resolutions. But you know, I've got a couple in the back of my mind, but I'm going to wait till after the EAD forum to create resolutions, and they'll go to the Electoral Area Directors meeting first, and then to the board, if I do make any.
Okay. Dr. Stoner?
Just to clarify, the provincial responses from the 2023 resolutions are available and publicly posted on the UBCM website. We've also received, I think, correspondence with respect to them. But they should be available. If you haven't seen them yet on the UBCM website.
Usually the SLRD gets the notification, and then they've forwarded it. So I'm not sure where they're at, but I'll have a look. Thank you.
Well, I just note that 11.1, resolutions must be received by February 28th. Is that a Wednesday? Is that Wednesday?
Yeah.
And that's our board meeting day.
Correct.
And then the 11.3, SILGA needs to by the 29th, which is the day after. So I'll just flag that, because if we are planning to do anything, we better be fully prepared at our next February meeting to pass them and move them along.
Yeah.
And if we know that something's coming, maybe we should send a note to those two organizations and let them know that things will be coming in on that deadline day. Just, we don't want to miss out.
Thank you. Do I need to receive this? A motion to receive, just one by one, 11.1.
So moved.
Okay, and seconded by Director Stoner. All in favor? And seeing none opposed, motion carried. So the next one is just the deadline for nominations for Lower Mainland LBA. Motion to receive, Director Stoner, seconded by Director Rainbow. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, motion carried.
I'll move 11.3.
11.3, moved by Director Rainbow to receive, seconded by Director Stoner.
No, sorry, I take that back.
No? Okay.
Or I'll add, no, sorry, we can do that, then I'll add a different message. Vote on this and then I'll make a different motion.
We're going to receive this one. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. 11.4.
Sorry, can I make a different motion?
Different motion.
The different motion, yes.
I'd just like to propose a motion that staff consider if there is any advocacy resolutions with respect to our experience with the 2023 wildfire season that they would like us to bring forward through SILGA.
Yes.
Second.
And seconded by Director Thompson. Is anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
I'll move 11.4.
And Barb Weave is stepping down. Position of
She is.
So, yeah, okay, Director Rainbow is moving. 11.4, seconded by Director Huffle. Not seeing anyone opposed. Motion carried. We did cover 11.5 yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
We're done. All this is done.
We're down to 12 for late business.
Do you have any late business? This one.
13.1 we've done.
Yes, I'm looking at my old agenda here. Right, we received the approval letter, so a motion to approve the NDIT.
Motion to
Motion to receive the correspondence for information, NDIT, grant writing support, approval letter. So none opposed, motion carried. And we also have correspondence for information. District Squamish Council member appointment.
To receive.
Motion to receive. Director Rainbow, seconded by Director Stoner. All in favor, any opposed, seeing none, motion carried. And Director Rainbow, you did have a notice of
I have a
motion.
notice of motion, yes. I'd like to introduce the following notice of motion. No, I'm doing that now. That staff be directed to make the first contact with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs regarding a potential preliminary exploration of a municipal restructure of the existing unincorporated communities of Britannia Beach and Furry Creek and the proposed community of Porto Road in electoral area D.
procedure question.
Yes.
My understanding is that director's notice of motion is that you are giving notice that in 2 weeks' time, you're gonna bring a motion forward.
Yes,
Your motion directs staff to do something,
I got this from staff, so.
so I'm unclear as
Well,
to how this process works.
No, that will be my,
You
that
will
will be
be,
the
Oh, that's
motion.
the motion that
That's
you'll
the
be
motion
bringing
that will be-
forward in.
Yeah.
can we record this in the minutes? Sorry, can you read it again?
Definitely know.
Sorry.
We receive it, I
confused.
believe.
Through the chair, we don't need a motion to receive. We are just receiving notice that there is going to be a report on the February board agenda in respect to this subject. And as Director Rainbow noted, that will be the resolution within that director's report. So there is no need to anything. It's just providing us information.
Step back to.
Thank you. Okay.
Could we have that repeated?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got it.
Do you want me to repeat it or just tell you what it's about?
No, just read what you've got there and then we'll move on.
Stop, be directed to make the first contact with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs regarding a potential preliminary exploration of a municipal restructure of the existing unincorporated communities of Britannia Beach and Ferry Creek and the proposed community of Porto Road in electoral area D.
Thank you. And we will move on. So at this point, we've gone into committee of the whole and come out and it's done. But we still have the recommendations coming forward and
So there will be a flow through of the recommendations from the CAL
right,
that were made, so those will go right into the minutes
Okay.
of this meeting.
okay.
Okay.
And we go back into closed for debrief.
For closed matters.
Closed matters.
Yes, please. Yeah, I'll move that.
Moved by Director Stoner, second by Director Rainbow. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Motion to close.
Motion to go into close, Director Stoner, Director Rainbow. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, we're going into close. Okay, we're